We gotta just chill out, man.
Pittsburgh Steelers fans, welcome back to another episode of the Scho Bro Show. This is the Steel Curtain Network's Dave Schofield coming at you Tuesday night, quite a bit before 9 p.m. this time. Or else would you rather be, Steelers fans? And with me as always, except when he's not, is my big brother Rich. I'm jumping the gun with everything. Rich, how are you doing tonight?
Dave, as I sit there and listen to you do that intro, it just makes me think stumbling, rumbling, bumbling.
What? I was distracted because I kept looking to see if the notification went out on YouTube. And you know what? It just came out. So I feel much better. I kept looking down and thinking about that rather than actually focusing on what we need to do. Hey, we're going a little bit early this week. It's the holiday season. I didn't have the same stuff to do. Rich was free, and we're like, you know what? Rather than make everybody stay up so late, let's get started a little bit sooner. So we were shooting for an hour sooner, but 45 minutes earlier. That's not so bad.
Nope, not so bad.
I'm just so disappointed that you're not breathing. That's the thing. Oh boy.
You know, we could spend a whole show just talking about this past weekend and what was wrong. We really can. Like we can take up an entire hour on this easily. There was just a lot of stuff.
We're not going to. But it's easily that we could. There's a lot, but what we are going to say is that we're going to kind of acknowledge the fragility of the 2025 Steelers. And this is what I mean by that. So it's interesting how the Steelers, they were on a roll for 3 straight games. They went into Baltimore, won there. They took on a hot Miami team, broke them. Took on we know potent offense of the Lions. You know, they had been the number 1 scoring team in offense in the NFL until they played the Steelers. Kind of broke them because, I mean, my goodness, 5 days later they show up with 6 turnovers on right after that on a Thursday night. It's that was Christmas. That was this past week. Anyway, it's all jumbling together with me with my timeline. We're in those weird 6 days between Christmas and New Year's where you don't know anything that's going on. But the Steelers were really, truly a team on the rise. And I'd been saying this team needs to be peaking in December. I didn't want them to do it before Christmas, though. I needed them to peak through New Year's and everything else. So all of a sudden, the Steelers don't have their number 1 wide receiver, and it's like their offense can't function. Then they lose their big tight end, and they can't go for it. They can't run the ball on 4th and short or 3rd and short for their Steelers shove or Pittsburgh plunge or tush push or whatever you want to call it. It's like so many times that you say it's next man up. But if the wrong person, especially on offense, is down, it's like they can't do anything.
Is it, though?
Is it that they can't or that they won't?
There you go. That is a big question.
Yeah.
And I've been listening to and watching a lot of stuff the past couple of days about the Steeler game. And, Dave, I'm not so sure that the case was that you couldn't. I think the issue was they just wouldn't.
Yeah, I can see an argument made for that. There's a lot of things you could make an argument for with this past game. A ton of things that you could say, well, they blah 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 blah. There's and here's the problem. I think it's because when you lose a game to a team that was 3-12, right? 3-12, is that what their record was? Something like that?
That's what it was.
I don't even care it was so low. Now, granted, it was on the road. Granted, it's been in a place you struggle. But to come out and give the effort and game plan offensively that you did just was like, okay, did you just decide you didn't want to be a good offense anymore? Did you just choose to not be so? Is that the issue?
Yeah, great question. I mean, Dave, part of what I'm sitting here is thinking is this, okay? And this was brought up on, I forget who I was watching or listening to. Okay, Dave, why is it that the Pittsburgh Steelers had 39 passing attempts? You have lost your top two receivers were not playing. Your number one, number two.
Well,
okay.
Based on receptions, your other one was, but you didn't look for him all game. You used him because he was chipping. You didn't even consider him.
Hold on, Dave.
Yeah.
You're jumping the gun. Okay. DK Metcalf,
technically 41 attempts because they were sacked twice. Anyway, go ahead.
DK Metcalf, CA3, not playing.
Yes.
Okay. Darnell Washington goes out in the first half. And you don't even bother to target. Well, I guess you targeted, but basically didn't target when you really stop and think about it. Kenneth Gainwell, 3 receptions, 4 targets, 12 yards. Yep. Okay? I just don't understand the logic that if you're going to pass the ball that many times, you lost 3 of your top weapons, and your 4th one you barely threw it to. What are you doing?
Yeah.
Especially then, you run the ball 24 times for 131 yards. You had Jaylen Warren averaging over 5 yards a carry.
Yeah.
Feed him the ball.
See, here's the thing. And somebody brought this up, and I'm like, it's one of our commenters at SteelCareerNetwork.com because we have great commenters. And he's right. And I wish I could remember which one said it because we have so many good commenters that I don't remember who said it. So I'm sorry right now. Maybe if any of them are listening or in the live chat, they'll remind me who said this. But you also got to put some of those runs in context. You know, you had it's funny. Connor Hayward had 2 rushes for 26 yards for a long of 29. That's only because the one time Aaron Rodgers was going to get sacked, he threw him the ball. It was backwards. So it counted as a run where he lost 3 yards. It really was more of a pass. But you had that one, and you had some nice runs. But there were a couple drives where the Steelers went run on first, run on second, run on third, punt.
Yeah.
They did do that at times. So there was times where the Steelers got some big runs, but they weren't also, when it seemed like, they're going to commit to the run here. But I don't like that they ran kind of some of those wonky runs. Like they had that one Kenneth Gainwell run where trying to get him out wide. I mean, they insisted on running away from Myles Garrett when it was probably much smarter to run towards him because he was so – it's funny. He talked about the Steelers being so focused on him. And Steelers fans want to make that narrative, and you can do it all you want. I usually don't promote this guy's stuff. But Alex Kozora, he set up a top and bottom video, and it was out there. So I saw someone who shared it. That showed how the Steelers played Myles Garrett the first time they played. What was that, week 6? Because it was the week 5 bye. It was week 6.
Yep.
And week 17. It was basically the same thing. You were watching the same tape. The only difference was the number of the tackle. That was really it.
Yeah.
They played him the same way. So people want to talk about, they were more worried about him getting the record. You know what? Of course, the world are going to shout that. I think they played that they didn't want Myles Garrett to wreck the game. But I will say, I think Myles Garrett was focused on getting the record against the Steelers, and he was lining up so wide and going so deep, you could have ran to his side because he was taking himself out of plays, and yet they didn't do it. They were still so scared of him, they still didn't do it.
Yes,
it made no sense.
That's it. It wasn't in the pass protection that the Steelers were so afraid of Myles Garrett. It was in the run game, which was stupid.
Yeah.
Stupid. That's all I have to say about most of the play calling. Yeah. It was just stupid. Okay? It was just making no sense why they were choosing to do what they were doing when they were choosing to do it. It just didn't make sense. The Steelers didn't change up so much what they were doing with Myles Garrett. They had a formula that worked in week 6. Why wouldn't you use the same formula in week 16?
Yeah.
And they did.
Okay. We'll see if Matt Cat, I'll believe him. He said that was Dave, meaning that's the commenter that was saying those things on the website where I have to agree. There were times where the Steelers ran and had to punt because it still wasn't good enough. To me, I think they could have mixed up their running game, but also here's my biggest issue. You said 39 passing attempts, 41 dropbacks because there was the 2 sacks.
Yep.
My issue with that more than anything, especially if you got a pass rusher.
Actually, Dave, you actually have to add 2 more to that because there was the one to Hayward, and there was another time where when Rodgers got pressured, he flipped back that counted as a run. Yeah. So that happened twice. So technically, there were 43 dropbacks.
43 it could even be. My issue was this. Okay, here's a number that bothers the crap out of me. 4 targets to your running backs. If you want, when your run game is doing so well, what you need to do is also incorporate your passing game to be an extension of your run game by using that and getting the ball to your running backs in space, since they're obviously doing well just running the ball anyway. Jaylen Warren was not targeted one time in this game.
Nope.
Not one. And Gainwell was only 4. That was not good enough. Not good enough.
Yet you targeted Scotty Miller 7, MVS 9. Okay, so there's okay, and Adam Thielen 5.
Yeah.
So
21 targets. That was one of my numbers article. 21 targets to the wide receivers for 8 receptions.
Yep.
And you only targeted your running backs, one of which is your leading leader by receptions on the team, a total of 4 times. That was the problem that I had when I said the running game was doing well, that you should have been using your pass game as a complement to your run game by getting those running backs involved, since those kind of things were working, and they didn't. The offense did not play complementary football. The run game did not build off the pass game, and the pass game did not build off the run game. And they've been doing that for 3 games.
Do you know what it looked like, Dave? I hate to call out Arthur Smith on this, but he was coaching scared.
Yeah. And I will tell you this.
And I don't think Aaron Rodgers was comfortable.
No. Because you want to know what? Coach Tomlin said it again today in his press conference. He has hyped up that Browns defense so much. Like he just said, hey, they're the number 1 unit in the AFC North, offense or defense, is the Browns defense. Okay? You know what? They're the last place in the division for a reason. All right? You got to go out there and not play scared. And people were like, attack the middle. You know when they attacked the middle? When the Browns went to a different defense in the 2 minutes. That's when they attacked the middle. So my thing is, if the Browns are going to do that, maybe run some hurry up, something like that. I think the Steelers should have recognized this. You can't go back and change what you screwed up last week, but you can use that to do better this week.
Here's the other thing I kind of want to point out. So we had 12 targets to tight ends, 10 receptions.
Yeah.
Why weren't we throwing more to the tight ends is another question, because their middle linebacker, the great rookie, probably going to win Defensive Rookie of the Year, was obviously hurt.
Yeah.
And we weren't taking advantage of it. Why?
Yeah, because it was the middle of the field. Because they were playing if they were playing the cover 3, you don't look, or whatever, or whichever one it is, cover 3, cover 2. I can't remember which one was which, but bottom line is, because the defense they were playing all the rest of the game except the last 2 minutes of each half, they didn't want to go to the middle of the field. You know what?
You're right, because they were playing single high safety.
Yeah, single high safety. Yeah.
But you know what? At the end of the game, what were we doing? What plays worked? How about Freiermuth over the middle?
But that's when they went to the deep shell. They hit Freiermuth over the middle a couple of times, and that's what made them move it down there. My thing is, then
do we have no?
You should know what the Ravens are going to do because you looked so terrible, and your wide receivers looked so inept that the Ravens should just try to duplicate that. The difference is this: the Cleveland Browns have the number 2 pass defense in the NFL. Part of that is because they're losing games a lot and teams don't have to pass against them. Okay? The Baltimore Ravens have the 29th pass defense, tied for 29th pass defense in the NFL. You know who they're tied with?
Who?
The Steelers.
Yeah.
Exactly. Exact same amount. But if you look over the last 4 games, and it's funny because Coach Schaum's like, oh, yeah, they've gone a lot more zone than man since the last time we've played us. He was saying that today. The Ravens are the 32nd pass defense in the NFL over the last 4 games. Dead last. So you're going against one of the best to one of the worst. If you live in your friggin' fears again, then you don't deserve to win. You don't.
Nope.
You don't. There should not be anything. You know what they're going to do? They're going to play scared of Kyle Hamilton. That's what they're going to do.
Probably.
They'll probably play scared of him because that's what you do. And it's just frustrating. It's frustrating that DK Metcalf couldn't control himself and he's out these last 2 games. I do believe if he was there the last game, the Steelers would be resting him this week. So he was going to miss a game anyway. But now it's a game for the division with a team that looked like they couldn't do anything offensively. But like I said, if you want some saving grace, it's that they're going against going against one of the best pass defenses in the NFL to one of the worst. That's one thing. So you got plenty of other things people have brought up here. So we're going to go ahead and we're just going to kind of I'm going to use a little bit of the live chat to kind of guide some things here with stuff tonight before we get going. I saw one and I'm trying to find it now. I might have gone back too far. I can't remember who said it. I can't find it. It was about Kenneth Gainwell in the last play of the game.
Oh, that's funny you say that. I'm sitting here looking. Do you know Patrick W. Cutler?
I do not. I'm not off the top of my head.
He is the fake Napoleon Dynamite.
Okay.
And he's from the Pittsburgh area, and he loves the Steelers. Mm-hmm. And I just happened to look on Facebook, and he has that last play, and he has a big old circle. Hey, look, there's Kenneth Gainwell, nobody around him. That could have been a touchdown.
It could have been, but here's the thing. Here's the thing. And here, is that Gimme Thunder? Is that how you say it? Yeah. It says need a TD to win. Sure. Have our last 3 plays target the guy you're having communication issues with. Yeah. When you weren't on the same page for 2 of them, that's what's so frustrating. And I'm sitting here looking at the Steelers media site with the play-by-play. And honestly, do you want to know the truth? The plays come up there before I see them on my television. Yeah. And when I get too nervous, I'll look for the play so that I know what to look for on the TV. And I already knew it was an incompletion before I saw it on television, before they snapped the ball. And I was so frustrated because I didn't realize it was a new play that was come up, because what did it keep saying for 3 plays in a row? Shotgun, A. Rogers pass incomplete, short right to M. Valdez-Scantling. 3 straight plays. That's what it comes across my screen the same way for 3 straight plays. Now, I will tell you this about that. I'm still trying to find when someone said that about that, just to give them credit.
Everybody's saying Steel Dog said it.
I'm sure he did. I just can't find it.
Okay.
Here we go. Steel Dog said it there. I think on the final play, Rogers targeted MVS. I think Gainwell was open over the middle. Here's the thing. I need to send him an email tomorrow about something with Fans First Sports. When I reach out to Tim Benz tomorrow to give him some information, I'm tempted to kind of let him have it in an email. And here's why. How dare you over and over and over and over during games complain and say hashtag short of the sticks. And every time the Steelers throw short of the line to gain 4th down, you throw a complete fit and then go on a show with Mark Madden on Fans First Sports Network. That's the Breakfast with Ben's podcast, if anyone's asking, and say, oh, he had Gainwell for the touchdown. It would have been short of the sticks, Tim. You can't have it both ways. You can't whine your way both ways. Okay? He gets my WLB award for Pittsburgh media.
Well, of course he'd be doing that if Madden was on this show. But I mean, of course they're talking like that.
Yeah, but what I'm saying, it's the whole idea of if you're the person who complains that you're not throwing past the line to gain, don't complain about not throwing it to gain well on that last one. Don't. You have no right to say such a thing if you're going to point it out every time the Steelers do it. And I've pointed it out to him in the past. The Steelers do it right around slightly less than the league average of throwing short of the sticks on third or fourth down and having your player try to make a play. I'd have been fine if they'd have dumped that off to Gainwell. If the Steelers would have dumped that off to Gainwell when he comes up a half yard short, Steelers Nation loses their mind and says he should have gone to MVS. He was one-on-one on the outside. Probably.
Well, let's throw it to MBS 3 times in a row, one-on-one on the outside against the Pro Bowl best defender of the Cleveland Browns.
Yeah.
Sure. Why not?
Yeah. And my thing is, it would have been a good completion. But the problem was he wasn't looking for him all night anytime he chipped Garrett. It was like he wasn't even a receiver.
Yeah.
And he had the dump off, and here was the key. Here was the key. He scores on that play if Rodgers hits him on the move.
And he
stops for the ball, and catches it, and then has to go, he doesn't make it.
Yeah, the guy behind him probably gets to him as I'm sitting here looking at the still.
Another receiver or another linebacker.
That linebacker is on the far side of the mid goalpost. Then,
but if he has to stop,
if he has to stop, that would have been bad. But you could see he basically looks like he wanted to get a kind of sit down and pivot, like
yeah,
like the route may have actually called for a short curl, but he curled it, and you can see it. It's like he's floating to the open area, and if you hit him in that open area, he walks in untouched.
Yep.
But
then do they go for 2 or do they go to overtime?
Right. Exactly.
So woulda, coulda, shoulda. And I will say, I believe that was pass interference on the 4th down play. I am not throwing a fit that they didn't call it, although this is the team that calls it more than any other officiating crew in the NFL, and they didn't call it there, which was kind of head scratching. But to me, the decision to throw that ball, they deserve to lose the game.
Yeah.
I didn't even care. Didn't even care. They didn't deserve to win that game. So that's that. Okay. I'm going to bring up, we got a super chat. Well,
yep.
So here we go. $4.99 into the tip jar from Thomas JP says, the play that made me the angriest was the pass on 4th and 1, especially right after using a timeout.
Made me angry too. It was in the knee-jerk reaction article.
And I'm just like, off a timeout. Okay, so here's the problem. Man, did Jim Schwartz, that's the defensive coordinator of the Browns, for those of you that don't know, did he completely pull one over on Mike Tomlin, Arthur Smith, and Aaron Rodgers? Okay. They were, for some reason, they were convinced all game, and watch, you're going to probably see it again this week. They were convinced all game, if you get one-on-one on the outside, you're going to take the shot. I have some news for you, Aaron Rodgers. I really hope you're listening, which I know you're not, but I really wish you were. You don't have anybody close to what DK Metcalf is. You can do that to DK if they're dumb enough to one-on-one him on the outside. Your other receivers are cast-offs for a reason. You called them cast-offs because they are. And the reason they are is they're not going to win one-on-one matchups most of the time.
Dave, there's
so stop having that game plan.
I was going to say, actually, I'd have rather had Pat Freiermuth or Jonnu Smith out there for those.
Yeah.
Because they're better receivers.
Yeah.
Or, believe it or not, I trust Adam Thielen on that more than I
Yes.
trust MVS.
Yes. Yeah. He's the one that I would probably trust the most. Coach Tomlin gave a complete crap answer today that just has run its course too much. He tries to use the same excuse. He's done it all season. And this week it's like, Coach, you now, as bad as it's been before, this might have been the most you look like a fool so far. And that was, you talked an awful lot about Roman Wilson and him playing in this game, yet he only had 9 snaps. What was the deal with that? And he said, we didn't convert enough on 3rd down to run more plays. You ran 60 plays. You ran more plays than your opponent. And he was on the field for 9 snaps.
Yeah, that's the biggest BS answer I've ever heard.
That is not a reason. Now, I know he can't say the reason, and that is because Rodgers doesn't want him there because he can't trust him.
Yep.
That's the reason. And he can't say that. But you gave the reason that early on in the season, when the other team's running 20 more plays than what you are, and you're saying we just didn't get enough plays to get the stuff out there going with what we wanted to do, that's fine. That didn't fit this week.
No.
It was the opposite of that. It was just terrible. And yeah, and it's frustrating. At the same time, he didn't throw his coordinator or his quarterback under the bus. So I hated his answer, but he also didn't throw the other ones under the bus, which I wouldn't have liked as much.
Yeah, but, I watched some Debo and Joe this week, and they were talking about, there were some things there where they were talking about how you handle some of these interviews or things like that. And Coach Tomlin, you really could have just said, you know what, it just didn't work out that way based on the way the game was playing out. Next question.
Yeah. Yes. Yeah. And honestly, I get if they don't trust Roman Wilson. I'm okay. That's fine. I don't trust any of the wide receivers now. I was hoping that this was the game that those guys would step up, get the job done, get a win, get a rest, get DK back for the playoffs, and boom, here you go. But they were not good. And the more they weren't good, the more they got thrown to.
Yeah. And that's
my problem.
That's the hard pill to swallow.
The worse the wide receivers looked, the more they got the ball thrown to them.
Yeah. I don't know. It was baffling. Dave, okay, I don't know if you noticed, but I did change my pick in the staff article.
Yeah, I did.
Did not like everything coming in, and I was the only person on staff to pick the Browns.
Yep.
And the more and more that game went on, the more and more I sat there telling myself, this is why I changed it, because this is what I was imagining.
Yeah.
That was just god awful.
Yeah. In the 4th quarter, MVS was targeted 4 times with no catches.
Mm-hmm.
Yep. Miller, two catches on 4 targets. Thielen, 1 catch on 2 targets. That was it. I mean, they were targeted 10 times in the 4th quarter. 10 of their 21 targets were in the 4th quarter for 3 catches.
Yeah. I don't know. It was just baffling. And I still can't get over the fact that you didn't throw a single pass at all to Jalen Warren.
Yeah.
Like, this was a game where he was running the ball decently. Like, he had 12 touches in the game. He needed more because he was productive in those 12. He needed 20.
Yeah.
Either extra runs or catching passes or things like that.
I'd
he
be fine
needed
if he
more
didn't
touches.
have another carry than what he had. But if he has 5 catches.
Yeah.
Because he probably would have had another 60 yards on them.
Yeah.
That's the thing that got to me. And maybe the Browns were doing something that I didn't see that was taking that away. I don't know. But it's like, it seems like you could have tried a little bit more. I am hoping, and this is what scares me. Not scares me, but I mean, it's a football game. But still, the thing that I'm worried about for this game coming up is that there's so many things that you could see that you screwed up with your philosophy in this last game and that you just won't change.
Yep.
That's me living in my fears. This game needs to be a heavy tight end, running backs in the passing game type of game. Will they do it?
No.
And what's crazy is they do. That is what they do often with DK Metcalf. You lean on your tight ends, you lean on the running backs in the passing game, and when you can, you take your shots to DK. As soon as DK wasn't there, they just completely went away from that.
I just find it funny that we targeted the wide receivers more in a game where we didn't have DK than a lot of games where we've had him.
Yeah.
Why?
You were exactly right, okay? Like look at it against the Lions. 9 targets to the running backs. 7, 10. Why can't I? There was 19 targets to wide receivers against the Lions, 2 less than the Browns. And of those 19, 9 went to DK.
Right.
So that kind of makes sense. Then your tight ends for one. I mean, they had 9. Okay. Combined. So, but that's kind of what you did. You take your shots to DK. It's almost like because there was no DK Metcalf, the Steelers had to try out every other receiver to try to be Metcalf at some point.
No, we don't have Metcalf, so they're expecting us to do this. So we'll just throw a bunch more to the wide receivers.
Yeah. So once again against the Dolphins, 10 targets to wide receiver, or sorry, 10 targets to running backs. The wide receivers, when I look at, I'm trying to add them up. 3, 4, 6. 6 targets to wide receivers against the Dolphins. 6. 11 to tight ends. 10 to running backs. Okay?
Yeah.
Let's really look at it. What did they do the last time against the Ravens? Okay. The last time against the Ravens, Metcalf himself had 12 targets, but he went for 148 yards. Okay. But once again, 10 targets between Gainwell and Warren. For the tight ends, it was 3, 4. Do I count Aaron Rodgers and his catch? It was only 5 to tight ends. And the wide receivers, I mean, you had 1 to Skoranek and 1 to Thielen and 1 to MVS and 2 to Austin and 12 to DK Metcalf. You know what I'm saying? So I get that you threw it to Metcalf a lot, but who did you rely on next? Gainwell, Warren, Freiermuth. Those were your next guys up when it came to passing and your targets. But you just didn't get them involved enough in this last game without Metcalf. The thing, if Metcalf's your number 1 and you have a collective as a number 2, then with no Metcalf, you need that collective to have more. And instead they had less and tried to get somebody else to replace Metcalf, and it didn't work.
Yeah.
Have we beat a dead horse on this enough?
Yeah, but I guess, yes. Now I'd like to just switch sides of the ball for a moment.
You know what? We're going to take a break and come back and switch sides.
That would be great.
Sounds good. So we're going to go ahead and take our break. We're not going anywhere. If you're with us here live, stay with us. If you're with us on the audio, stick around. We'll be right back after these messages.
Relax, don't worry, no rush, what's the hurry? Relax, don't worry, don't worry, relax, don't worry, no rush, what's the hurry? Relax, don't worry, relax.
All right, bro, I got to tell you, this is not the time to relax and not worry. It's just not. That's not what this week is. But before we get into everything again, I wanted to wait until we were this far in because I wanted to say something again. I said it on the preview last week, but after our show ended last week, we had a $49.99 super chat after the show was over came from David Poe that said, "Merry Christmas, bros." I just wanted to acknowledge that. I acknowledged it on a different show. I wanted to also acknowledge it on this show to thank you so much for that. That went in the tip jar. All right, Rich, switch sides of the ball.
All right, switch sides of the ball. I don't have a whole lot of complaint on the defense, really, minus early in the game. But really, I don't have that big an issue with things early in the game, except for that one play.
Yeah.
I am still trying to figure out, and so was Kyle. We were like talking about this. How in the world can you see a pass that bad turn into a touchdown? Well, it should have turned into a touchdown maybe for the Steelers.
Yeah.
But instead it turns into a touchdown for Cleveland. That ball was terrible.
Yeah.
And when it left Shedur's hand, I'm sitting there thinking, this is a pick. And Kyle Duggar, instead of cutting in front of the receiver and picking off the ball, ducks his head and shoulder down, goes behind the guy, doesn't touch him, so that he can catch the ball and roll into the end zone for a touchdown. What was that?
That was, honestly, haven't heard him say anything about it. If I had to guess based on what I saw, first of all, he should have tried to locate the ball and catch it.
Yep.
I think he thought it was such a bad pass that the receiver wasn't going to catch it. And the last thing he wanted, and so the only way it was going to be a bad play for the Steelers was if he interfered with him. So don't get the penalty because there's no chance he's catching this ball. And then he catches the ball and rolls in the end zone, hurts himself, and is done for the game.
Yeah.
So,
but
yeah, it was.
It's the play though that really defined the game when you saw him think about it. It's the only touchdown in the game.
That's what I was waiting for the whole game. Was when's the next fluky thing going to happen? And I didn't trust that it was going to go in the Steelers' favor. Okay, I'm kind of mad at Coach Tomlin today. I cover all the press conferences, do all that. I'm kind of mad at him today. In case you didn't tell, didn't like the answer about Roman Wilson, all that other stuff. What I'm mad about is he said we needed to have more splash plays and talked about the dropped pick 6 by Nick Herbig.
My thought is they got you 2 picks, score with one of them.
That's my thing. I understand it. That could have been a huge play. That's a play that probably wins the Steelers the game because it changes everything else. But it didn't happen. But you know what did happen? They picked off 2 other passes, and the offense turned it into 0 points.
Yeah.
You shouldn't be calling out your defense, who held the Browns to 52 yards in the second half. 52 net yards. You got to say it that way. You shouldn't be calling out your defense that did that and shut them down. And the only points they gave them in the second half was when you couldn't you couldn't move the ball 1 yard on 4 plays at the end of the game and gave them another field goal. I honestly wish they would have punted there with 3 timeouts.
Yeah. I was wondering why they didn't as well.
Because they were still going to need a touchdown. They were going to have to score a touchdown anyway. So but nothing there in 4th and 10 gave me any confidence that they were going to do anything. No. Okay, based on the previous 3 plays. And how many other times have they punted with 3 timeouts? That's so there's that.
And your defense had been dominating the second half.
They didn't give you enough splash. I guess what he's saying is the Browns offense is so terrible, our defense needed to win us the game. Because the Browns defense is so great, we shouldn't have been expected to score anything other than a field goal 3 times. Twice. They missed the other one. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. You know what, Dave? This upcoming game is going to be very interesting. Okay? Mm-hmm. Because right now you have 2 fan bases. Well, first of all, it is the 2 most tenured coaches in the National Football League currently.
Yes.
Okay? And both fan bases are actually hoping their team loses so that the team fires the coach.
maybe not the majority even, but a significant portion of both
Yes.
fan bases believe that.
Yes. Trust me, I've been watching, been following. Also, to throw it out there, since I told you I would, this Sunday, I'm actually going to watch the Steelers versus Ravens with a Ravens fan. My good friend Don, he and I do a lot of fishing together. He grew up in Ellicott City, so he's a Ravens fan.
Yeah.
I'm a Steelers fan. We have decided to watch the game together. And it's very interesting.
For interesting knee-jerk article.
It is. It is. But here's the thing, because we both feel like this about our teams. He feels the same way about the Ravens as I do about the Steelers. And that is, whichever team wins this game is basically just going to be fodder in the first round of the playoffs.
I want to talk about that, but before I do, I got to bring up the super chat because there's confusion going on here in the live chat. And this is from Thomas JP says, "Would you ever consider streaming while a game is happening, doing commentary, especially if Romo is working it?" We kind of did that during the fourth quarter of the Ravens Packers game. Bad and I did on Saturday night, but right as when we started doing it is when things fell apart. That's when the Packers were driving to cut it to one score. Willis gets hurt, and then the other schmuck comes in and throws a pick. So, would we ever consider it during a game? I mean, we've done it during the draft. During the game is tough because we all still do our regular things with our families and whatnot, and also have other responsibilities. Then Matt Cat was talking about how we do stuff during the game, but people were talking about Matt Cat. What Thomas is talking about is having a show like this where people can be here and listen to us while the game's going on. Because he said about, they do it on FFSN. It's actually at steelcurtainnetwork.com. That's our open thread. He was talking about streaming the show. Matt Cat was talking about how we're in there in the comments saying everything of what's going on during the games. It's basically, if you're ever wondering, YouTube people, if you want to know if what it would be like to just live chat with other people like you talk about here in the live chat during a game, you need to do the open thread at steelcurtainnetwork.com. Because that's what that is.
Yeah.
That's basically what's going on there. And it's how do I say this?
Dave,
not even everybody on the YouTube stuff is as civil as what you get on the ones on the
to address this issue that you have up on the screen about, especially if Romo's working it.
Mm-hmm.
I tried to get a couple of them in there, but man, you should have heard Kyle talking about Romo constantly the other night.
It was just,
the other day. Kyle was just like, he's like, oh, so Patrick Holmes,
Mm-hmm.
The Chiefs out of the playoffs.
Yeah.
Now Romo's got to find somebody else to slobber over, so he's slobbering over Shadur.
Yeah,
like, really?
it was like every little thing was. Yeah.
All I can say is this: I'd like to wrap up this game with just one thing.
Okay.
That I really, really, really hope for.
Okay.
I hope that the Cleveland Browns winning that game against the Steelers cements Shadur Sanders as their starting quarterback for the foreseeable future.
Yeah,
because if that happens, the Browns are just the Browns.
We were talking about that on the postgame show. We're like, give us more Shadur because wow, that was. I mean, and that's what's embarrassing that the Steelers lost to that offense.
Yes,
they lost to that offense because their offense couldn't do anything because they were missing. Because they were missing DK Metcalf and lost Darnell Washington partway through, which for those of you that haven't heard, there's been some bad reports out there the NFL.
I saw that.
Even tweeted it wrong. Coach Tomlin did not say that Darnell Washington is out for the season. He said he's out for this week. They asked him again. He said, hey, it's this week or nothing. He's not here this week. So that's what it is. Now, do I expect
places that were saying out for the season? They needed to say out for the regular season.
Yeah.
Which is just one game left.
Yeah, which is one game. So there was that. I want to come back to what you were saying about the whoever wins this game is just fodder for the playoffs. Here's the thing. Yeah, I just said playoffs. That's exactly what I said December 7th. There's one old lady at my church. Her son used to be our pastor before he moved on to a mega church. But she still comes there. She's a Ravens fan who I always like. She likes to pick on me and I pick on her. But it's respectful. We never try to upset the other one. I said to her, it really doesn't matter who wins this game back the first Sunday in December if neither of them are playing well. Use it to start playing better. In order to do anything in the playoffs, either one of those teams had to play better. I said it on so many podcasts. I didn't want the Steelers to win against the Ravens because they sucked less. I still want the same thing for this week. I don't want the Steelers to beat the Ravens because they suck less than what the Ravens are sucking. Because honestly, you can say, the Ravens beat the Packers. The Packers had really no interest in that game. I mean, my goodness. I mean, they're out their best defender. They were on their number 2 quarterback who was playing amazing. And then he gets hurt and goes out. It was just like, the Packers defense just wanted nothing to do with having to deal with Derrick Henry. They were just like, we don't want to get hurt.
Let's not get hurt because we're already in the playoffs.
They were playing like they didn't want to get hurt. So to me, that's why I said last week, I'm like, if the Steelers can't beat either the Browns or the Ravens to make the playoffs, I don't want them in the playoffs. They don't deserve to go. When the Steelers had, controlled their own, they could have eliminated the Ravens last week, regardless of what the Ravens did. I'm like, if the Steelers can't beat can't beat either the Browns or the Ravens in games they have to win, then they don't deserve to go to the playoffs. Even without DK Metcalf, if you can't beat the Browns, if you had one bad game because of that and you were trying to figure it out and you can bounce back and then beat the Ravens, there you go. But you had the easier task last week, although it was on the road against a much better defense that the offense that was missing pieces had to go against. Now you're going up against a bad defense, but now you've got to stop the Baltimore offense, the Baltimore run game. But the problem was not the Steelers' defense this past week, was it?
No, it was not.
So now you're talking about strength on strength. Because I hate to tell you this, the strength of the Steelers over the last half of the season, especially over the last quarter of the season, has been the defense. Mm-hmm. This is what I expected to be the strength of the Steelers to start the season. It was not. But they've really got some stuff figured out. Imagine getting Brandon Echols back. Having James Pierre as an option, whether it's him or Samuel, just having options in case other things happen. Imagine TJ Watt potentially being back because that's what they're looking to do. All these players, the only player who's not playing this week is Darnell Washington. Everyone else has the opportunity to if they can get on the practice field and get back to play. Imagine getting those things back and making the defense even better. And then your offense just has to go up against a bad defense. Jeff Hartman said this to me. I don't know if he said it on any other podcast, and he's probably get mad at me for sharing a private message between him and I. He actually said to me, and you know what? I agree with him. He said, believe it or not, I actually like to match up against the Ravens at home more than I did the Browns on the road. He actually has more confidence this coming week than what he had last week.
I will say this, Dave. If both of these teams, and that's the other thing, actually talking with my friend Don, that we were both just have talked about with both Baltimore and Pittsburgh. Which team's showing up this week? You never know which team's showing up. The team that showed up for the Steelers this past week, the defense was the same, but the offense looked like it did back when we're losing games in the middle of the season that we shouldn't, and not doing anything.
Yeah.
It's like, what's going to show up? And unless you do something to give me some either team does anything to give me some confidence coming out of that game, I have a feeling we could be at the end of this game and just be like, yeah, this isn't going to be pretty for the winner.
Yeah. I mean, the Steelers did so much over that 3-game win streak. I mean, they even won a game where they lost the turnover battle.
Yeah.
They went to show that, you know what, they were building in a way that they needed to build. And the loss of DK Metcalf, because the thing is, he just could have easily got injured in that game. He could just as easily be out these 2 weeks because of injury. I know it stings a little bit more because it was his own boneheadedness and the fact that the NFL never did anything about what he complained about last year and allowed it to even happen again this year without security there. It still doesn't excuse the fact that he went over to do that.
Yeah.
The NFL should have taken responsibility and then cut the suspension to 1 game. They really should have.
They should have, but they didn't.
But they didn't. But it was a former Browns coach that was hearing his appeal. I don't know why they did that either.
Yeah, I don't know.
So it is what it is. But how are you that fragile that your offense can't do anything after that? All you can do is throw the ball to 2 guys that weren't even on the roster a month ago.
Yeah.
Yeah. And for people that are being critical of Omar Khan for saying that they like what the Steelers had at receiver, even mentioned Robert Woods, who didn't make the team. You know, we're happy that we did add Robert Woods, didn't make the team. Okay. Your 3rd-round pick from 2 years ago isn't even active. You had to bring in other guys in order to play. You didn't do enough. I'm still not bothered that the Steelers traded George Pickens. That was going to be a disaster.
Oh, yeah.
But just like the year before, I was angry that they traded. I wasn't mad that they got rid of Deontay Johnson. I was angry that you got rid of him and didn't replace him. And you did it 2 years in a row. You did it with Johnson, you did it with Pickens. DK Metcalf was not a replacement for George Pickens. DK Metcalf was supposed to be a complement, those two working together. Then when you traded George Pickens, you never replaced him. Because you still never replaced Deontay Johnson from the year before. You're running short on a quality wide receiver for 2 years in a row. And it's coming back to bite you now with an offense that couldn't do anything on Sunday without him. You've got to get it figured out this week. Yes, you're missing Darnell Washington, but at least you have a week to prepare. Get somebody else in there that can do the tush push. Have a plan. I mean, I understand if you really, for that specific play, if you didn't really feel like you had done it, designed it enough to have someone else that stepped in his place. Okay? But you got to find it this week. You do.
Why not? You're telling me that for what that play is, we couldn't line up Jonnu Smith to take the snap and let Connor Hayward do the pushing?
Jonnu Smith's bigger than Connor Hayward. I would have Jonnu Smith do the pushing.
Either way, it doesn't matter.
Yeah. Yeah. And I mean, some people are like, why don't you, rather than put Spencer Anderson on the line of scrimmage, put Spencer Anderson back there?
That would work as well.
Which might be what they do.
Right.
But I also understand trying to do something you've never done before. I've told the story before that it was early in the season coaching freshman football, and I never put in victory formation. I never put in take a knee. And there was a story that a team their freshman year, several years before, one of the varsity players told me the story about he tried to do that at the end of a game, and every player on the offense took a knee, not the quarterback. So I didn't run the take a knee play right before halftime to just get out of there. Instead, I just ran our typical 444 wham, which is, ISO. Sometimes you see on Madden or whatnot. And we ran it for a 65-yard touchdown. But that's all because I just didn't. When you didn't have, you'd think something you could switch in. That was freshman football, though. Don't you think you could take some time with these guys on the sidelines because they're not playing defense, they're not playing both ways, and figure out, hey, this is what we're going to do with Porter. We need to do this play again. But they just abandoned it. So please come up with a plan for some of these things. That's what you need more than anything. You can't be this fragile. You've got to be able to play through it.
Yep.
So, Rich.
I'm ready.
You're ready for it now? Good. Because we've talked about this last game, but we've really pushed it what you need to do for this game. I mean, please learn from these mistakes. Please learn from these mistakes. I mean, I even thought MVS would be the guy that took the position of DK Metcalf. And if you want to take a deep shot, you throw it to him. But when they kept not working, you can't keep insisting on going there when the game's on the line. So they didn't pivot. They didn't adjust with all that they were going to do. And now they have to come in and at home face a Ravens team that they've won 4 of the last 6 at home against the Ravens, I think it is. Something like that. I mean, it's not, people talk about, the Ravens go to Pittsburgh, but no, it hasn't been that way. It really hasn't been that way historically. And the Steelers have done well in Baltimore as well historically, like in the last 5 to 6 years. So it's not like this is an impossible task. But have you noticed that the Ravens are like more than a 3-point favorite in this game?
Okay.
In Pittsburgh? Just because of the whole, we were dead and now we have life. Let's get up for this game kind of thing. So, yeah. So, all right, we're going to go ahead and do it. Big question. What's your score prediction for this one, Rich? Don't put your scores out there until I ask for them in the live chat.
Okay, we'll get that right in the live chat because mine's going to come out very quickly. So here's my prediction when it comes to the game. The Ravens run the football. Coach Tomlin plays in his fears. And the Ravens win 26-16.
I saw someone else have that score somewhere. Yeah. What do you mean by Coach Tomlin plays in his fears? Can you be a little bit more specific?
Yeah,
you can put your scores out there.
Gets everybody play super conservative.
Yeah.
Plays with the same look it looked like against Cleveland. Trying to just not lose the game.
Play to not lose the game. All right, and that was the thing that bothered me. The Steelers, they were so afraid of the middle of the field throughout the time unless they gave the right defense. You were willing to not score points as long as you didn't turn it over.
But at some point, you got to score some points.
You got to score points.
Yep.
And to have the nerve to step out there today and say it's because you didn't score 7 points on defense.
Yeah. Irritating.
All because you played so scared on offense of turning the ball over. You won the turnover battle and lost the game. When the last time was the Steelers did that? When they lost it by 2? They won the turnover battle by 2 or more and lost the game last year in Cleveland. It's what they do in Cleveland on that Thursday night. Won the turnover battle by 2, lost the game. Matt Cat 49 has 24-23 Ravens. That's a score that sounds, kind of a little bit more in line with what I'm looking for. Afton for it has 22-19 Ravens. Jeff Slattery, who is one of 2 people remaining in the contest. We've got 2 people going the last week. Jeff is 1. Tim Pratt, who sometimes is in here, is the other.
Oh, I think he's in there tonight because he says he's caught me multitasking.
Oh, okay. So the 2 people left, somebody picked the Steelers last week, and that's why they got eliminated. So those are the 2 people that are left. And I know I'm going on a tangent with this, but this is the last week, and I want both of these guys to know because I'm going to send them an email. You don't have to hold back teams for the postseason. The postseason is going to be run differently. So you're all don't feel like you got to hold anything back beyond this week because we're gonna do it a little bit different.
Yeah, you almost have to.
Yes, because you might not even have an option otherwise. So that's to get there. But Jeff Slattery has Ravens 21, Steelers 17. Okay, Thomas JP has 38-10 Ravens. Okay, Kathy has 21-17 Ratbirds. Matthew Bunk has 33-35 Steelers. That's the first Steelers we've had. Then Steeler Chick 46 has 21, Steelers 21, Ravens 17. Jim Leoski has 17-16 Ravens because Boz misses a field goal. Oh, that one. Oh, man, my gosh. Steel Dog 88 has 24-16 Ravens. There's T. Pratt. There he is, the other one in the contest. He has 20-10 Rats. Brian Mizwa has 24-20 Ratbirds. Kyle has 20-19 Ravens. Outside Steeler fan has Good Guys 30-17 because Rodgers finds his Green Bay Rodgers. Here we go. I'm looking. It's funny. Some people are saying, "Wow, we started early." Yeah, I put it out there on X. We were starting early because of the holidays. We started earlier tonight by about an hour. So that was it. Great one has won 26-23 Steelers. But people, of course, worried about Derrick Henry.
Dave, I'm not sure you read that one correctly. Hold on, I'm trying to go back to it.
This one, 26-23 Steelers?
No, not that one.
What?
The one by Jim Leoski.
Where did I miss that
I
one?
think it's, but no, you didn't miss it. I think there was some missing punctuation.
Oh, does he mean 20 or 17-16?
So I think he's 17-6.
Goal.
Boz, and then Boz at the end. So he's picking the Steelers.
At the end. Ugh.
Ravens miss one to go up.
Those are important, people. This is why columns are important.
Yes, punctuation needed.
Is your friend, okay?
Yep.
Oh, it drives me crazy when people don't use the Oxford comma because it makes things confusing.
All right. I think you got a couple more come in.
Did I have any before? Okay, John S. It wasn't the beginning. Says doesn't only do score. He's saying 22-20 Steelers. Boz with a walk-off. Marky D, Steelers Nation Australia. Wang Harb 0, Mike Tomlin 19. George, I'm not even going to try it. 24-17 Steelers. Okay, we got smack talk between the two people left in the contest. I gotta love it. And we got Matt Cat 49 says he said John S 22-20 Steelers. I don't know what that was. Okay, I might have missed that. Afton, I love this. Okay, says punctuation matters. I'm a big fan of Oxford. There we go.
So am I.
Not coming.
Yeah. I too am a fan of the Oxford comma.
Yes. And for those of you that don't know what that is, when you're making a list, you put a comma before the word and.
Yep.
Because if not, it's confusing. I have a great example that I use with myself. I used it for staff with myself, Jeff Hartman, Brian Anthony Davis, and let's just say those who would be employed by the Beehive as an example to show why the comma is important. Because if not, then Jeff and I just had a new profession. Anyway, our shows are going to be, we're still going to have our shows. I do not know what time the guys are going tomorrow on New Year's Eve. I assume they're going earlier, the Pump Your Brakes fellas. I know they went earlier on Christmas Eve. The Steelers preview, we are coming to you on New Year's Day. We will be earlier in the day. It's going to be in the afternoon on New Year's Day. Other than that, we should pretty much have everything else scheduled pretty much the same up until the Steelers. I don't like it that it's Sunday night. I really don't. Aaron Rodgers should already be in bed by that time, but at least they showed they could beat up on the Dolphins when they were at home in prime time. So hopefully, I'm trying to remember, were any of their other primetime games at home this year? I know there was it was the Packers was the other one.
Yes.
The Packers game was home. It was prime time, but the other ones were not. I knew there was another one there. I just couldn't remember what it was. So, hey, what sucks more than anything is not knowing what's going to happen. Meaning we don't know about everything. That next week we could be back here talking to you all about starting the long off season. And I don't even want to think about that.
Oh man,
I do not want to think about that.
Seems like we just started the season.
So bro, you say about it might just be fodder for the playoffs. But you know what? I'd say give me one more week of Steelers to get me through, and anything can happen. Get DK Metcalf back. It should hopefully be a different team. It really should, because it definitely made a difference last week. It'd be nice if it didn't make that big of a difference. But make sure you check out all our podcasts and, of course, checking out SteelCurtainNetwork.com. I already mentioned it here several times. Whew, all right. I've talked too much. Rich, what do you have to say to close us out?
You know, right now I can't even tell you where I'm going to sit and watch this game. There are a couple of options. If the ice is looking nice, I may spend the day ice fishing on Sunday since the game is so late, and then watch the game at my friend Dawn's house. Mm-hmm. If it's not, then Dawn may come over here to my house to watch the game. But one way or the other, I'm going to watch the game. I'm going to have my knee-jerk reactions. I'm going to be rooting for a Steelers victory, even though the back of my mind is telling me it's not highly likely. If I were a betting man, I would probably lean toward saying it's going to, well, I already did on here, lean toward saying it's probably going to be a Ravens win. Can the Steelers win this game, though, is the question. Okay? The answer to that is yes, they can. If they call the right kind of game, both on offense and on defense, the Steelers could win this game, and they could win this game easily. But I'm just not 100% sure that those things are going to happen. But I'm going to be there. And we got another score in. John Walter says Steelers 24, Ravens 17. Because he loves angry Tomlin haters.
Tomlin haters. Okay. Go ahead.
There you go. Honestly, though, Dave, I'm like you. I'm kind of hoping for a win just because I don't want the season to end. Yeah. Because we all know how long that offseason kind of gets. There's plenty that goes on in the offseason, but it's just not the same as looking forward to Steeler football every Sunday, especially at 1 o'clock when God intended football to be played. But instead, we'll play it this Sunday at 8:30 when the Steelers are actually going to play. Go Steelers. Can't wait.
We gotta just chill out, man.
Can't wait.